Welcome to Moonlight Tales by Crawford. Please subscribe for more. Thank you. The Carter estate stood still under the silver hush of moonlight, elegant and untouchable, like its master. The vines creeping up its marble columns swayed gently with the wind, and somewhere in the garden, the chimes Ariel once hung by the cherry tree whispered their soft song. She hadn't touched them in years. Not since he left. Inside the house, Ariel Reyes Carter sat at the grand piano, her fingers resting silently on the ivory keys. She didn't play anymore, not because she forgot how, but because it hurt too much to remember. The piano was his grandfather's favorite. So was she, once. Her white doctor's coat still hung neatly by the foyer. The scent of antiseptic clung faintly to her skin, mixing with the softer hints of gardenia perfume. She had just returned from a 16-hour shift in the ER, stitching lives back together with steady hands and an exhausted heart. The marriage license, dated exactly 3 years ago today, still sat tucked between the pages of an old anatomy textbook upstairs. Signed. Legal. Real. But not lived in. Not once. Her eyes drifted toward the wide oak doors. The ones he walked out of. No note. No goodbye. Just silence. Until now. Outside, black tires crunched against gravel. A sleek midnight blue Rolls-Royce purred its way up the circular driveway, like a king returning to his long-abandoned castle. The driver stepped out first, then opened the passenger door. Donovan Carter emerged, the cold night wind tugging at the edge of his perfectly tailored coat. 3 years had only made him more dangerously beautiful. Jet black hair, sharp jawline, intense storm gray eyes that missed nothing. The world knew him as the CEO of Carter Industries, a ruthless billionaire who turned failing empires into gold. But to Ariel, he was simply the husband who forgot he had a wife. She stood before the fireplace, watching as he entered the mansion like it still belonged to him, which, technically, it did. Him and her both. Ariel, he said finally, his voice like silk stretched over gravel. Low. Controlled. She didn't move. Donovan. A heartbeat passed. Then another. You look well, he said. 3 years will do that to a person, she replied calmly. Especially when they're left alone. The tension in the room thickened. He looked around the room as though trying to map what had changed, the framed certificates on the wall, the books, the quiet elegance of her new presence here. I see you've made yourself comfortable, he said. It's my home. You may have forgotten that. His jaw ticked, just slightly. But he said nothing. They stood there, two strangers bound by a paper marriage and a legacy neither of them had asked for. Donovan spoke first. My grandfather's will had a final clause, he said. It comes into effect on my 30th birthday. Her spine stiffened. She already knew where this was going. And what clause might that be? His eyes didn't flinch. I don't inherit the full estate or business unless I produce an heir. Within this marriage. With you. Silence. She stared at him like he'd just asked her for a glass of water, not her body. Her heart. Her future. So, she said slowly, you came back, for my womb. The fire crackled. He didn't deny it. At least not yet. Ariel, he started. No, she held up a hand, steady and surgical. You left me here. 3 years. No contact. No explanation. And now you're here because a legal document tells you to be. Donovan exhaled. I know. And I don't expect forgiveness. But this is bigger than either of us. She blinked. Is it? He took a step forward, then paused. I'm asking. Not demanding. If you want nothing to do with it, I'll leave and handle the fallout. But I had to try. Something flickered in his eyes. Not warmth, but weariness. Regret? She didn't know. Maybe she didn't want to. You're asking me to give you a child, she whispered. When you never even gave me your time. Another beat of silence. Then she did something that shocked him. She laughed. Not bitterly, not cruelly. Just quietly. Soft, tired disbelief. She walked past him to the piano and sat down, pressing a few random keys that echoed in the silence. I dreamed of this moment, she said. For the first 6 months after you left, I imagined how you'd return. Maybe you'd apologize. Maybe you'd have changed. Maybe you'd even want me. She looked up, meeting his eyes. But I should have known better. You only ever love what benefits you. His jaw tightened again, but he didn't speak. You want a child, she continued. Fine. But I won't be some incubator in your billionaire fantasy. You'll be present. Every appointment. Every night I can't sleep. Every panic attack. Every moment. Donovan nodded. Agreed. She wasn't done. And if you so much as disappear again, I'll raise the child alone. But I won't hide. I won't protect your name. I'll tell the world everything. Another nod. And if this child asks me one day, where was Dad when you were pregnant? I want to be able to say, he was here. Every step. He stepped forward. Just once. I will be. Good, she said. Because I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me. That night, they sat across from each other at the long dining table, a table made for 20, with only 2 seats filled. The tension wasn't gone, but it had shifted. He watched her hands as she ate, delicate yet strong. The surgeon in her always noticeable. The woman he never bothered to know was sitting right here, elegant, grounded, and heartbreakingly beautiful. She looked up and caught him staring. Don't pretend to care now, Donovan. It's insulting. He smirked, barely. Maybe I'm just realizing what I missed. Too late, she said. Maybe, he said. But I'm still here. And for once, Ariel didn't know what to say to that. The morning sunlight crept silently through the mansion's tall arched windows, casting golden stripes across the cold marble floors. The house had been silent for years, and somehow, even with Donovan back inside its walls, it still felt like the echo of a home. Ariel stood barefoot in the kitchen, wearing a soft satin robe over her nightgown. The scent of ginger tea and toasted bread lingered in the air. Her fingers moved instinctively, calm, precise, as they always did in the ER, but her mind was anything but. She didn't expect him to come downstairs. Not this early. But he did. Dressed in a crisp charcoal button-down and slacks, Donovan Carter looked like a cover model for Forbes Africa, his sleeves casually rolled up to his forearms, hair slightly tousled, face unreadable. Their eyes met briefly. She didn't flinch, but he did. You cook now? He asked, voice low. I eat now, she said without looking up. Which usually requires cooking. He pulled out a chair at the small breakfast table. Can I? You're a guest, she said. Help yourself. He moved toward the counter where fresh akamu and fried plantains were set out. The food wasn't for him, but she didn't stop him. A quiet, complicated civility hovered between them. I want to be clear about something, she said, sitting across from him, wrapping her hands around her warm mug. This arrangement isn't just about you walking in, giving me a child, and walking out again. I know, he said simply. You say that, she replied, but you also left a wife you never really knew for 3 years and expected her to just be here waiting. He didn't look away. I didn't expect you to wait. I didn't expect anything. That's the problem, she said softly. You never expected me to matter. Donovan stared at her for a moment too long, like he was searching for words that didn't come easily to men like him. You do matter. I just didn't know how to handle that back then. And now, she asked. Now I'm trying. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the soft clink of utensils and the hum of the refrigerator. It was surreal. This man, her legal husband, eating breakfast like they were just a regular couple. She cleared her throat. If I agree to this, to having a child, it won't be some mechanical, cold-blooded process. There will be no contract. No clinic. No test tubes. If we do this, it's between us. Naturally. He nodded once. Of course. She met his eyes. You'll stay here, full time. You'll go with me to every doctor's appointment, even if I'm on call. You'll take paternal leave if needed. I can arrange that, he said. You'll be present. Not just biologically involved. I will, he said again. She studied him. Why the change? He leaned back slightly, eyes distant for a moment. I've spent my life building something so big, so powerful, but I never built anything that felt real. Not until this came back into my life. You. This marriage. This chance. Something flickered behind her eyes, not trust yet, but the faintest spark of curiosity. Later that day, a quiet moment passed between them as Donovan followed her up the stairs. She paused halfway. You're not staying in the guest wing. He raised an eyebrow. No. We're married, she said. If we're going to do this, we do it as husband and wife, not business partners with benefits. He nodded, but there was a slight pull of discomfort on his face. Problem? She asked. Just, unfamiliar, he said. Well, she replied, turning to continue up the stairs, get used to me. The master bedroom had been hers for 3 years. Elegant, warm, distinctly hers, soft brown tones, scented candles, a few medical journals on the bedside table, and a worn copy of Things Fall Apart. She stood by the dresser while he stepped inside. It still smells like you, he said quietly. She turned slowly. You wouldn't know. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. Fair. He placed his overnight bag by the armchair. I'll keep my distance. Ariel raised an eyebrow. Until I decide otherwise. He looked at her. You're in control now, aren't you? I always was, she said, without blinking. That night, they lay in the same bed for the first time. Not touching. Not speaking. Just, breathing. He slept on one side, shirtless, reading reports on his phone until midnight. She curled on the far edge, pretending not to notice the quiet glances. At one point, their hands accidentally brushed. Neither moved. The air grew thick, heavy with a question neither wanted to ask. Could something real ever grow from this? He turned off his phone. Good night, Ariel. She didn't respond. Not with words. But her breath softened. And for the first time in 3 years, he realized. This woman beside him was not a stranger. She was his wife. And he didn't want to lose her again. The hospital hallway was as polished and pristine as Ariel's nerves were frayed. She wasn't used to being the patient. Not the one filling out intake forms or sitting with clammy hands in the waiting room. She was the one who fixed people. Sutured wounds. Delivered babies. Told families when to hope, and when not to. But today, she sat quietly in the OB/GYN wing of St. Jude's Medical Center, dressed in muted brown slacks, a cream blouse, and no makeup. It wasn't for show. It was real. Just Ariel, raw, vulnerable, quietly powerful. And beside her sat Donovan. In a tailored black suit, no tie, collar slightly undone. He looked impossibly out of place amid the soft blue walls and posters about fertility, maternal health, and prenatal vitamins. His legs were crossed, one hand resting over the other. He looked calm. But she could feel the tension pulsing off him. You don't have to be here, she said softly, scanning the form. Yes, he replied, not looking at her. I do. A pause. Ariel didn't respond. Not with sarcasm, not with warmth. But something softened. Slightly. Dr. Adeobi Naji entered with a confident smile and sparkling eyes, a woman in her early 40s who had known Ariel since her residency. Ariel, she greeted, arms slightly open, warm. You brought company. Ariel stood and gave her a brief hug. This is Donovan. My husband. Dr. Naji blinked, surprised but too professional to show it. She offered him a polite smile. Nice to finally meet the mystery man. Donovan stood, shook her hand with respectful ease. Likewise. The consultation room was bathed in soft white light. On the screen was an animated diagram of ovulation cycles. On the counter were educational brochures and sterile equipment. But the air was heavy with everything unsaid. Dr. Naji sat down. So. You're ready. Ariel met her gaze. We're trying. Donovan nodded silently. I'll need to run some basics, blood work, hormone levels, cycle mapping. Standard stuff. And you, she turned to Donovan, will do your part too. I assume you're both planning for natural conception. Yes, Ariel said. No clinics, Donovan added, quickly. We're doing this, personally. Dr. Naji gave a knowing smile. I'll let you two talk. Come see me next week when the labs are in. She left them alone. Outside, the midday sun beat gently against the glossy hood of Donovan's Range Rover. The city buzzed in the distance, horns, sirens, traffic, but between them, there was only quiet. Ariel stood by the passenger side door, arms folded, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. That wasn't so bad, he said. I didn't expect you to show, she replied. You're still surprising me. Donovan stepped closer, stopping just short of her space. That's all I want to do now, surprise you. Not disappoint you. She looked at him then, sharply. Why? He hesitated. Then, because I've never met a woman like you. And I've already wasted 3 years pretending you didn't matter. Her jaw tightened. And now that you need something, suddenly I matter. He swallowed. No. Now that I've seen you, who you are, what you've become, I realize I don't want a child unless it's with you. Ariel didn't blink. Then prove it. Their eyes locked, no longer adversaries, not yet lovers. Something in between. Something dangerous. Something real. That night, the rain tapped against the mansion windows like shy fingers. The scent of pepper soup simmered from the kitchen. Donovan had cooked, or tried to. Ariel had laughed softly when she found him burning onions, but said nothing. Now, she stood by the glass doors leading to the garden, barefoot in a satin robe, holding a mug of tea. Donovan approached slowly, unsure if he was welcome. She didn't turn to him. Not right away. I used to stand here at night, she said. Back when you left. Wondering why I wasn't enough. He flinched. Ariel. You don't have to answer. I know now it wasn't me. It was you. He stepped beside her, their shoulders inches apart. You were always enough. I just wasn't ready to feel anything real. She looked up at him. The moonlight painted her cheekbones in silver, her lips in shadow. And for a moment, just one, he leaned in. Close. Closer. But she turned away. Not yet. Later that night, in their shared bed, they didn't speak. But neither of them turned away. The storm outside grew louder. Thunder cracked. Rain ran down the windows in wild streaks. Donovan reached across the sheets, his hand brushing hers. And this time. She didn't pull back. The morning air smelled like jasmine and wet stone as Ariel stepped out onto the hospital terrace, clipboard in hand, white coat fluttering softly behind her. The tension from last night still clung to her skin like perfume, the almost kiss, the brush of Donovan's hand beneath the sheets, the way his breath caught just before she pulled away. She hadn't slept. Not really. She had replayed that moment 100 times, and what unsettled her most was that it didn't feel like duty anymore. Not legacy. Not inheritance. It felt like wanting. Real, bone-deep wanting. And that scared her more than anything. Small blue diamond, Dr. Reyes, you have a visitor. She turned, blinking out of her thoughts as a nurse gestured toward the edge of the hallway. There, standing confidently in navy scrubs and a sharp smile, was a familiar face from long ago. Dr. Michael Odigun. Ariel's breath caught. He was taller than she remembered. His skin the color of polished mahogany, his hair cropped close, his eyes warm and bright, the kind that made people lean in. Mike had always had that presence. Like laughter waiting just behind his lips. I heard you were running this wing now, he said, smiling. Still intimidating as ever. Ariel laughed. Just once. Light, surprised, real. What are you doing here? Transferred. Permanent contract. Cardio and trauma, he said. Guess we're colleagues again. He offered her a fist bump, which she accepted, awkward, friendly, and tinged with something else. Something unresolved. Later that day, Ariel sat in the doctor's lounge, sipping bottled water as Mike leaned across the table with easy charm. I remember you in med school, he said. You were all focus. No fun. Except when someone was bleeding, then you lit up. Ariel smirked. And you were all charm. Still are. He shrugged playfully. Guilty. What about that girl you dated, Miriam? He laughed. She left me for a pilot. Smart woman. Their laughter faded into a quiet moment. He looked at her then, not just at her face, but at the ring still sitting on her finger. You're married, he said gently. I am. To Carter. The billionaire? Yes. And, happy. She hesitated. Then said, I'm figuring that out. His gaze held hers. Not judgmental. Just curious. Soft. Well, he said, rising from the table, if you ever need reminding of who you were before Carter. I'm just down the hall. That evening, Donovan stepped into the ER with a single purpose, to surprise her. He brought dinner, not store-bought, not delivered. Homemade jollof and fried plantain, YouTube-assisted, yes. Burned once, yes. But his pride simmered in the plastic containers all the same. But the surprise curdled when he stepped through the double doors and saw her laughing. Not fake laughing. Not polite. Laughing. With him. Donovan recognized Dr. Mike immediately. He'd seen the name on the hospital board. Didn't expect him to look like that. Didn't expect Ariel to look at him like that. The jealousy was irrational, primitive, and instant. Later, the sound of cutlery clinked awkwardly against china. The jollof was untouched. Ariel sat across from him at the kitchen island, nursing her third glass of water, eyes unreadable. So, Donovan said. An old friend transferred in. She raised an eyebrow. Mike? Yeah. Mike. He's a doctor. We were in the same year. He's good. Donovan nodded slowly. You two seemed close. A pause. Ariel leaned forward. Are you jealous? He didn't answer. Because if you are, she continued, you have no right to be. Not yet. Donovan stared at her. You're right. But I want the right. His voice was low. Controlled. Honest. I want to be the one you laugh with, he added. The one you come home to. Not just the man who gave you a last name and a clause. Ariel didn't move. Her breath was shallow. Her fingers tightened around her glass. You're saying all the right things now, she said. But I need to know it's not just because someone else wants what you threw away. He stepped closer, slowly. I want it because I finally see what I almost lost. That night, she didn't stop him when he brushed her arm in bed. She didn't turn when he whispered her name. And when he placed his hand on her stomach, the place where a life might one day grow, she didn't flinch. Because maybe, just maybe, she wanted it too. Not just the baby. Not just the legacy. But him. The sound of rain on the roof was soft, barely more than a whisper, but inside the mansion, the storm was just beginning. Donovan Carter stood outside the master bedroom door, fingers clenched, chest tight. He had said what he could downstairs, but it hadn't been enough. Not to erase the image of Mike, smiling, leaning in, making her laugh in a way Donovan hadn't managed in weeks. And worst of all, she'd let him. She'd let someone else in. He wasn't angry at her, not really. He was angry at himself. For leaving. For returning too late. For realizing he wanted more only after the possibility of losing her crept too close to his door. He knocked once, then opened the door slowly. Ariel stood near the window, arms wrapped around herself, her silk nightgown brushing softly at her ankles. Her hair was loose. Her skin glowed in the golden lamplight like polished bronze. She didn't turn. If you came to ask more questions about Mike. I didn't, he said. I came to tell you what I couldn't say downstairs. I am jealous, he said quietly. I hate that you smiled at him. I hate that he made you laugh. I hate that he knows who you were when I didn't even try to learn. Ariel stayed quiet. I don't want you to want him, Donovan said. But if you did, I'd deserve it. Still nothing. But I'm not just jealous of him, he added. I'm jealous of the version of myself that could have had you from the start, and ruined it. That made her turn. Her eyes were dark, unreadable. So what do you want now, Donovan? He stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. I want to be your husband, he said. Not by paper. Not by legacy. I want to be the man you reach for in the dark. The name you whisper when you can't sleep. The reason you never wonder what it would have felt like to be truly chosen. Ariel's breath caught. Just for a moment. He stepped closer. I want to touch you and know I've earned it. I want to kiss you and know you'll let me. I want you to carry my child, not because of a will, but because we built something worth carrying forward. Her chest rose and fell. Slowly. Like she couldn't decide if she wanted to cry or scream or kiss him right there. Say something, he murmured. She looked at him, not like the girl he married, not like the woman he left, but like the one who could finally destroy him. Do it, then, she whispered. If you're not just saying words. If this is real. Show me. He didn't hesitate. His hand reached for her cheek first, sacred. Then it happened there and then. It was a prayer. Slow. Hungry. Grateful. Like a man who had been starving, but wanted to savor every bite. With no hesitation. No pretense. Just need. For once, neither of them led with pride. For once, there was no past in the room. Only now. They lay in bed later, in silence. Do you regret it? He asked softly. She didn't answer right away. Then, no. I just wish. We started here. Instead of so far away. He pecked her temple. Then let's stay here. Don't leave, she murmured. I won't, he said. Not ever again. And for the first time, she believed him. Ariel had never known the body to whisper so quietly. In surgery, it screamed, in pulses, hemorrhages, CT scans. But now, her own body was speaking in murmurs. Subtle signs. A tug of fatigue. A strange fullness. A slight, persistent nausea that didn't quite feel like anxiety, but wasn't far from it either. She sat in her home office, a medical journal open in front of her and a mug of ginger tea going cold at her side. She wasn't ready to say the word out loud. Not yet. She needed to be sure. From the doorway, Donovan leaned silently against the frame, watching her. She hadn't told him. He could feel it, in the way she moved, how her gaze dropped when he asked how she was feeling, how her lips curved in a half-smile but never quite reached her eyes. He didn't push. But it gnawed at him. He wasn't used to waiting. He was a man of control. Deadlines. Signed deals. Defined deliverables. But love, or whatever this fragile, blooming thing was, didn't follow Carter protocols. He just stood there and let her have space. And maybe, for once, that was enough. The next day, Donovan brought lunch to the hospital again. She didn't eat. Not even the soya-spiced jollof rice she loved. Instead, she rubbed her temples, excused herself early, and didn't return his texts until after 9 p.m. When he walked into the bedroom later that night, she was already curled under the sheets, pale and quiet. Her robe was loose at the collar. The same ginger tea stood untouched on her bedside table. He sat down gently beside her. "Ari," he said. "Is it something I did?" She turned her head slowly. Her voice was almost a whisper. "No. Is it Mike?" That made her blink. "What? Are you thinking about him?" Now she sat up. "Donovan. I just need to know if this thing between us is still real," he said. "If it was just one night. Or if it meant something." "It meant something," she said sharply. "But this isn't about Mike. Or you. It's about me." Then, more quietly, "It's about what might be happening inside me." He froze. "Then, you think you're—" She nodded once. "I'm not sure," she said. "I haven't taken the test. I don't want to jump ahead. But I know my body. Something's different." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached for her hand and held it, not like a man sealing a deal. But like a man choosing to stay. "If it's true," he said, "we do it together." Ariel's eyes glistened. "Even if I'm not ready to be a mother yet?" He pecked the back of her hand. "Even if we're both terrified." The next morning, she stood in the bathroom holding the test. Her hands were steady, surgeon steady, but her heart was thudding like it belonged to someone else. Donovan stood outside the door, barefoot, not pacing but close. She opened the door 5 minutes later, expression unreadable. He didn't ask. He just looked at her. Ariel nodded once. And he pulled her into his chest. They didn't say, "We're pregnant." They didn't shout. They just stood there, wrapped in silence, hearts pounding in sync. That night, he curled behind her in bed, one arm draped gently across her stomach. "Do you think we'll be good parents?" she asked quietly. "I think," he whispered, lips brushing her ear, "we'll be good together." She smiled into the pillow. For the first time, the word family didn't feel like a condition. It felt like a future. Donovan hadn't planned to tell anyone. Not yet. Not until Ariel had her first scan. Not until they'd had time to breathe as a couple, not just a pair of expectant parents. But the Carter family wasn't built on patience. It was built on expectation. And nothing, not even a man's private joy, stayed private for long. The Carter estate's chef had barely finished pouring fresh juice when Mrs. Cecilia Carter, Donovan's aunt and the family's ever-polished matriarch, raised her brows over her phone screen. "So it's true then," she said casually. Donovan looked up from his eggs. "What is?" "You've finally fulfilled your grandfather's clause," she replied. "The media says Ariel is pregnant." His fork paused midair. "The media?" She slid the phone across the table. There it was, a blurry photo of him and Ariel outside St. Jude's, the caption speculative but loud enough to start a storm. CEO Donovan Carter spotted at OBGYN with secret wife Dr. Ariel Reyes, legacy heir on the way. He set the fork down. "It's not confirmed." "But it's true?" she asked, tilting her head. Donovan didn't answer. Cecilia smiled, satisfied. "Then the board will want an announcement. Preferably before the gala." Ariel stared at the headline on her hospital office computer. Her hands were still in latex gloves, but her stomach sank like stone. No one from her hospital had leaked anything. She had been discreet. Private. But someone, somewhere, had seen. And sold. By the time Donovan called her phone, she didn't answer. He showed up instead, rushing through the back entrance of the hospital like a man chasing a ghost. "Ari," he said, breathless. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't tell anyone." "You didn't have to," she said quietly. "They saw us." "Ariel. I don't want this to be a headline, Donovan," she said. "This isn't about a clause anymore. This is our life. And now it's a public discussion. I'll fix it." "You can't fix exposure." "But I can protect you," he said. "Let me do that." She didn't answer. 3 days later, an envelope arrived on their doorstep. Deep red. Gold wax seal. The Carter Foundation Annual Gala, the same one where his grandfather used to parade him like an heir in training. Inside, a note in his aunt's handwriting. "If you're ready to step into the spotlight, now is the time. The family expects you both." Ariel stood at the counter, reading it in silence. Donovan watched her carefully. "You don't have to go." "Yes, I do," she said. "Because if I don't, I'll stay the woman the family tolerates from a distance. I'd rather be the woman they have to accept in person." He smiled. "You've always been stronger than me." She turned. "No. I've just had to be braver longer." The gala was a cascade of opulence, gold chandeliers, rich Ankara gowns with Swarovski beading, champagne towers, and legacy oozing from every conversation. And then they walked in. Donovan in a sleek black agbada trimmed with silver embroidery. Ariel in a floor-length emerald green gown with coral beads and her hair twisted high like a crown. The music paused for just a second. Long enough for every head to turn. She didn't flinch. Didn't blink. She walked like she belonged, because she did. Toward the end of the evening, Cecilia tapped her glass. "Ladies and gentlemen. I believe a family update is in order." Donovan stiffened. Ariel's fingers found his under the table. "We've had many generations pass through this foundation," Cecilia continued, "but none as promising as our future, in business, and in blood. Please raise your glass to Mr. Donovan Carter, and his growing family." A roar of applause. Clinks of crystal. Cameras. Whispers. And through it all, Donovan only looked at her. Not the board. Not the guests. Her. The night after the gala, their bedroom was silent. Not cold, not distant, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when the world outside has said too much, and you need the stillness to hear yourself again. Donovan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Ariel rested beside him, her breathing slow, her hand resting over her stomach, a gesture that had become second nature. He wanted to ask if she was okay. But he also didn't want to push. For once, he let silence carry the question. Monday came fast. Rounds. Charts. Consults. And with them, Dr. Mike. Ariel turned a corner too quickly and nearly collided with him in the hallway. He caught her elbow instinctively. Whoa. Careful, Dr. Reyes. She looked up. Mike. He smiled. I saw the news. Ariel didn't reply. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So, it's real. The pregnancy. She nodded once. It's not public by choice. I figured, he said softly. But it's a beautiful thing. A pause. Too long. You happy? He asked. Yes, she said, then after a breath, I'm working on it. His gaze lingered, thoughtful. If he ever stops trying. I won't. She looked up sharply. Mike. He raised a hand. Not now. Just, remember I said it. Then he walked away. Outside the hospital, reporters had gathered. Questions fired as soon as Donovan's car pulled up at noon. Mr. Carter, will you confirm the pregnancy? Is this child the heir mentioned in your grandfather's will? Is Dr. Reyes stepping down from her position? The doors flew open before security could reach them. Donovan stepped out, shielding Ariel as she exited behind him, head high, jaw set. They said nothing. But the silence said everything. That night, the moment played on every network. The pressure boiled over later that night. I told you they'd come, Donovan said. That's why I wanted to wait. And yet, somehow, the world found out anyway, Ariel replied, pulling her earrings off and tossing them onto the vanity. Maybe because someone in your hospital. She turned. Don't. Donovan stopped. He closed his eyes. I didn't mean that. No, she said quietly. You did. He sat on the edge of the bed, defeated. I'm trying so hard not to lose you. She stepped closer. Then stop treating me like someone you need to manage. I'm not one of your company's divisions. I'm your wife. A long silence. Then Donovan rose and cupped her face gently. You're right. And I'll spend every day proving I deserve that title. Days later, Ariel stood in the dark bathroom again. This time, not for a test. This time, for a heartbeat. The ultrasound screen glowed in the dim room as a tiny rhythm pulsed across it, faint but clear. Donovan held her hand. For once, he wasn't thinking of legacy. Not of heirs. Not of headlines. Just of life. Of this moment. And the woman beside him. Pregnancy changes a home. Not just in decor, or the soft rustle of catalogs left on countertops. But in the feeling. The way silence wraps tighter. The way small moments suddenly mean everything. Donovan noticed it first in the kitchen. Ariel was humming. She never hummed. She moved slower now. Braced herself gently against countertops. He watched her with a kind of quiet reverence, the way some people watched the sunrise, not just because it was beautiful, but because it happened at all. But not everyone was watching with love. The Carter Foundation board was divided. A child on the way meant questions of succession, control, and shares. Donovan's uncle, Erastus, made no secret of his discontent. We supported this marriage because it kept the estate aligned with your grandfather's will, Erastus said in a private boardroom. But parading her through galas? Appointing her to the health initiative? You're making personal matters public, Donovan. She's my wife, Donovan said evenly. And now, the mother of my child. That child doesn't have the Carter name yet, Erastus replied. Until there's proof of paternity, the board reserves the right to contest any claim. Donovan rose. Slowly. Calmly. Dangerously. You want proof, he said. You'll get it, the day the child is born. And until then, this family, and this company, will not threaten her. Later that week, Ariel opened an email from an anonymous source. Attached, a photo of Donovan, standing outside a restaurant patio with a woman. A former Carter Foundation PR manager. Smiling. Laughing. Leaning in too close. And a caption. Still believe you're the only one he protects. She stared at it for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't call him. Just closed the laptop and went silent. When Donovan came home that evening, he found her outside, sitting on the stone steps of the garden terrace, barefoot, arms wrapped around her knees. He sat beside her. She didn't speak. Finally, who is she? He blinked. What? The woman. The one from the photo. His jaw tightened. That's Sandra. I had lunch with her. We used to work together. Why didn't you tell me? Because it was business. And I didn't think you'd. Didn't think I'd what? He sighed. Didn't think it mattered. It matters when it's public. Her voice shook. You said you were protecting me. But you can't even protect this. He looked at her, eyes softening. Ariel, I swear on everything I haven't touched another woman since the day I came back to you. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. I want to believe you. He reached for her hand. Then do. Not because I said it. But because you feel it. That night, Ariel moved into the guest room. Not to punish him. Not out of anger. She just needed space for her mind, and her heart. Donovan stood outside the closed door with a blanket in his hands. He placed it gently on the floor. Then sat. He didn't leave. Not even when the hallway light dimmed. Not even when the house fell asleep. He stayed there, outside her door, holding the silence, waiting for it to break. Rain had started again. Not the heavy kind that breaks roofs and floods gutters, but the slow, persistent kind that cleans everything it touches. Ariel watched it fall from her bedroom window, not the guest room, not the one she retreated to, but the room they once built from distance and now tried to rebuild with silence. Behind her, Donovan stood in the doorway. He didn't speak. She turned. Come in, she said softly. You've waited long enough. He walked to her slowly, like approaching something sacred. She didn't flinch. I don't need you to explain it again, she said. I know who you are now. He exhaled. Then you know I've made mistakes. Yes, she nodded. But I also know you've changed. He took her hands, gentle, open palms. No promises this time, he said. No vows. No Carter boardrooms or clauses. Just me, choosing you. Even if I have to start over every day. She smiled. Then let's start now. It came like thunder. Her water broke. She barely had time to change. Donovan was already pulling the car around. In the back seat of the luxury SUV, she gripped his hand, teeth clenched. He didn't let go once. Not through the screaming. Not through the silence. Not even when her nails dug half-moons into his wrist. Breathe, baby, he said. You're strong. Stronger than any boardroom. Stronger than me. She managed a faint laugh between contractions. I know, she whispered. The room went quiet just before the storm. Donovan was told to wait outside the curtain, but Ariel called him in. I want him here, she said. Not just as the father. As my anchor. The doctors worked, fast and focused. Ariel gripped his hand. He whispered prayers he hadn't said since childhood. She screamed. He didn't flinch. And then. A cry. A heartbeat, outside her body. A son. Wrapped in white, skin the color of dusk, hair like velvet, fists already curled like he owned something. They both cried, not loudly. Not performatively. Just quiet joy. Because love had finally spoken for them. Later that week, Erastus called. The board had questions. Papers to file. DNA results to confirm. Donovan declined the call. Instead, he lay in bed beside Ariel. Their son sleeping on her chest, skin to skin. "You're not worried?" she asked softly. "I've never been clearer," he replied. "This is the only legacy that matters now." She smiled. "His name?" she asked. Adamide, Donovan said. "My crown has come." The hallway was quiet again, but no one waited outside the door. It was open now. No more walls. Just warmth. And life. And the slow, steady rhythm of a heart that once waited, and finally found home. Please drop a comment below. Thank God bless.